Welcome to the Defence Property Podcast, the podcast where we talk about all things property investing and real estate for Australian Defence Force personnel. Whether you're looking to build and scale a property portfolio or relocating across Australia, we've got the insights and tips for less stress and more success. Let's dive in.
And welcome back to another episode of the Defence Property Podcast. It's Kane here, your host from Discover Buyers Agency. And today we are sitting with Kacy Rose, who is a current serving member of the Australian Army. He's infantry and started his rentvesting journey. So Kacy, welcome to the podcast.
G'day, Kane. Thanks for having me.
Well, I guess to kick off, mate, tell us about yourself and your current defence career and where you're at, and we'll go from there.
So Kacy, I've been in defence now for about 4 years. Infantry, did training Kapooka, Singo, and posted to Brisbane, 6RR, where I'm currently. Joined fresh out of school. I didn't have too much exposure. Just one day decided, join the army, give it a crack, see what it's like. In Brisbane now, currently rentvesting. I got my first property last year, and
nice. So, in Brisbane, you're a private or Lance Corporal, or
still private.
Yep.
Still private. Yeah.
And how many years you got left on the Rosso?
I finished my Rosso now, so
okay.
I'm just free rolling. Yep.
Yeah, nice. And what's any shelf life, or what's the plan, or just year by year at the moment?
It's year by year for now. Yeah, I think for at least the next 2 or 3 years, I'll probably still be around, just trying to tick off some goals that I've still got.
Yeah, nice, cool. And you've so you're in Brizzy getting rent assistance at the moment?
All service residents now, but
yeah, okay. Yeah, sweet. And I guess going back, we'll get into the story about how you and I met and your property a little bit later, I guess. But you obviously, when we did meet, already had property on your mind. Like, it wasn't something that was, forced upon you any sort of external. You already had a wanted property. You knew that you wanted it. But what was the conversation around the dinner table like growing up before the army? Like, were mum and dad property investors, or it was the forbidden?
So mum and dad, I'm pretty grateful. They've always been a pretty good role model, especially in terms of finance. So they have their own business that they grew. Grew for over a decade.
Yep.
What was their business? Sorry?
What was their business in?
Liquid waste removal. So pump trucks, vacuum excavation, and they've now moved into, the transport, more of the transport side of things.
Okay. Yeah.
So they've done fairly well with that. They have their own property investments here and there now.
Yep. So it's sort of something that got brought up a little bit here and there. You had some exposure to it, but
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And then what age did you join the army?
Fresh out of school. Yeah. 18.
Yeah. Sweet. So that puts you at about 22 now?
Yep, 22 now.
And I guess go back, so when was it when we first met? Probably just over 12 months ago at the Matlock Memorial game out at Bellenden. You were playing rugby. You're on the rugby league side. That's where we first crossed paths.
Yep.
And I think I even did a little 15, 20-minute presentations to the team that year.
Yeah, I do recall that. A little show and tell, what you can do, what's available to us, and I guess that's kind of what reignited the spark, or finally, kicked me up the bum to, really get into it.
Yeah, okay. Because and then it was probably a good, I can't remember now, 4, 5, 6 months or something after that game that we finally got into the market. But tell me, like, at that point before we had that, I guess, that presentation, that conversation, were you thinking about buying an own occupier, an investment, or you had no real plan back then?
I didn't have a real plan. Didn't really have a direction I wanted to go. I just knew long term that, I wanted to get into the market. I'd seen how, other people had built wealth off it, and it
Yep.
was something I always wanted to do. I just didn't, yeah, just lacked the direction on what to do.
Yeah, okay, cool. And then I guess we had a few conversations after, the rugby league game out at Bello. Caught up and got probably more specific into, your situation. Just talk
Yep.
us through sort of pre-conversation with myself and then post about the I guess the clarity that may or may not have come off the back of those initial chats.
Yeah, so I think the reason I was putting it off, I just didn't know my options. I thought, maybe I didn't have enough saved up. I was seeing price tags of houses in Brisbane, and didn't even consider investing elsewhere.
Yeah.
Um, so I think, yeah, just getting those initial options of where what I could do, where I could go with it. I think that's what you know finally pushed me into making a decision.
And giving you a bit of clarity on the right direction to go.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And ultimately, so I guess they're in defense, there's always two paths we can go, like, or not even in defense, but as a civilian as well. We can choose to be a rent investor or we can choose to buy an own occupier. And then from there, once you got your first, you leverage out and build the portfolio from there. I guess for yourself, we chose to go down the rent investing path.
Yep.
And that was purely based on you wanted to obviously, well, the price point for Brisbane was a lot higher, which means more servicing requirements and bigger deposit. But you also didn't want to give up, or you had no intention of, I guess, leaving Brisbane. Is that fair?
Yeah, yep, definitely.
So we sort of considered some other markets where we might get some good growth, but also in a location where you're hopefully not going to get posted to in the future. Um, and we obviously bought in a regional Queensland area. Um, just talk us through, I guess, the getting ready and the guidance from the business and how that sort of felt through that process.
Yeah, it was pretty full on. So I think we officially started looking July. Um, and within a month and a half, I had a place. Yeah, just I don't know, just things that I had no idea about. You know, comparative rental analysis, for rental reports, due diligence reports. Just all came flooding in. Just looking at all the options, I had no idea, really what went into purchasing a home, especially investment property. Um, so yeah, it was a lot to take on, and it was one thing that I really enjoyed about the process is trying to learn a bit more about it. That's one thing I remember, asking about. I wanted to learn the process, learn how it all works.
Yeah, nice. So I guess one thing that I'm interested to hear your feedback on, I guess, or even advice for other people, but a common thing that I come across when I talk with people in defence that are wanting to go down the same path as yourself, and whether it's buy a home and investment property, they always say, "Oh, I'm going on course in a fortnight. I'll do it when I get back." And then they get back from course, whether that was 4 weeks or 12 weeks. And then they're going out field for exercise, or if they're in the Navy, they might be going to sea. Um, and then they come back from there and there might be a promotion course or something. And then all of a sudden they're at mid-November and they say, "Oh, I'm checked out for this year, leaves in a couple of weeks." And then as tools down, we're going to have a well-earned break after a hard year. They sort of sit there and over Christmas period catch up with family. They do a bit of travel, come back in January, and then the tempo starts winding up as they're onboarding maybe to a new unit or the same unit, and then they're back into that same pattern almost of they can see the year out in front of them with courses and field. There's always a reason. I guess what I'm getting at, there's always a reason to not do it. But what was your like when everything was coming fast and thick to you with rental analysis reports and price reports and due diligence reports? It was pretty, I guess, hands on. Like, do you feel that in hindsight, or like you would still recommend someone going on course or going out to just get
Yeah,
into it, you know what I mean? Because if you had waited, and we'll get into your numbers, if you had waited and said 12 months had lapsed, like, essentially you're up 100,000. We'll get into the numbers in a moment, I guess, but you're up 100,000 in the 8 months that you've owned the property.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah. Well, during my process, I don't know if you remember, but I actually had to get my settlement postponed a week because I was outfield. Um,
yeah,
so I was prepping to go away. I left, come back, and then within a couple of days, I my settlement date. Um, it was definitely pretty full on, like on my mind, but you know, I I just had to just do it. I think just the opportunity cost is real, and I just needed to get into it. Yeah, just having the team there. Obviously yourself at Discover. My solicitor was great. Just helping me through that process, even while I was away. Um, yeah, and I wouldn't change a thing.
yeah, nice. And do you think you would have, like, how long do you reckon it would have taken yourself to do it without having, like, discovering the buyer's agency? Like, help me out.
I'd have no idea,
You'd be saying
honestly.
when you come back from your next bush trip?
Yeah, would have put it off. Would have been a lot longer and maybe a bit more expensive. Who
Yep,
knows?
yep. Um, cool. And yeah, so we ended up purchasing, I think, what was your purchase price? About
680.
680,000. Yeah. Um, and do you remember what the rent was at the time?
Um,
Probably hasn't gone up. It's
believe
only been 8 months. You wouldn't have had the anniversary and the rental
no,
increase yet.
no, not a rental increase. It was 590. When I my
Yep.
first rent.
Yeah. Okay. And that's, do you know the due date for a renewal of your rental lease?
It would be start of October, I believe.
Yeah. Okay. Was it vacant or tenanted when we settled?
Vacant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long did it take to get the tenant?
The crossover was probably about 3 weeks, I
Okay.
reckon.
Yep.
Yeah.
So pretty good, pretty standard. And
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
was there any point where you were worried about getting a tenant?
No, not really. So the team up at Bell Property there, they kind of had some options lined up, and it's pretty seamless to
Yeah.
get them in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The team at Bell Property, I know we're talking property management here, but a little shout out to Cody Dart, who's actually ex-infantry himself, and he's a sales agent in the Bell Property team up there. But then, yeah, so looking at some online valuation portals and also some comparable sales, we can see that your property sort of sits in that, I would say, 788, call it 790, up to, eight mid eights. So a good 100, 30K in 10 months roughly.
yeah.
Um, so I guess, well, based on that, what advice would you give to anyone that's pondering buying property or getting started with property?
Well, it's just a real, pull your finger out, get up and just do it.
Yeah,
I put it off for a while, and in hindsight, I probably, could have saved a bit more and got into it a bit earlier and just done it. It was funny at the time. I had some investments in shares. I had a pretty big share portfolio,
yeah,
and I had to sell some to for the deposit. A couple of weeks later, my shares had would have almost doubled, and at the time I was spewing. I was like, oh, I've missed out on all this money. 8 months later, and as you said, the value's up. 100K. I could have made that on the stock market. It's just that opportunity costs. Don't
yeah,
delay it, I guess.
yeah, yeah. And I guess you obvious question, but you probably wouldn't have saved that much, or 100 grand
Yeah.
and that, like, and yeah. Did you have lender's mortgage insurance? Like, what was your total deposit in the end?
I put down. I think it was 94 with stamp duty.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
So you would have been about 10% deposit?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so you would have had a little bit of mortgage insurance, which
yeah,
I think that I guess the point for the question, or the reason I raise it, is a lot of people do get to this point where they might have 10% and they'll say, well, I want to save till I get to 20% deposit so I
Yeah,
don't have to pay mortgage insurance. And mortgage insurance at a ballpark would be maybe 10 or 15,000. But if you had taken another 12 months to save another 5 or 10%, the price probably would have grown faster than. So you might have saved another 50 grand, but it'd be a smaller percentage because prices have gone up so much.
yeah, yep, definitely.
So that's, I guess, lender's mortgage insurance, although it can be seen as a burden, but it can also be a tool that can be used to get into the market sooner, which, if you're buying in the right market, and it's property we all know and love as a great asset, it can be that it can actually minimize opportunity costs, I guess, by paying that premium.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so going forward, we've paid 680. Market analysis is telling us around 788 to 850. What's the next step? You're still renting, happy renting, and you'll stay in
yeah,
service rent, getting that free rent assistance while in
yeah.
other markets.
Sorry, what was that?
And like you'll stay like no immediate plan to buy a property to live in. You'll continue on the rent.
Yeah, yeah. Happy rent vesting for
Yep,
now.
yep.
Yeah,
And what's your thoughts on maybe property number two?
yeah, yeah, it's definitely on the mind. Now they've got some of that equity. I'll just keep saving and hope to just continue building the portfolio, reinvesting.
Yeah. So, and for the second property, you don't necessarily need to save the full deposit. You can release
Yep.
equity from the, yeah. So you're well and truly onto the path now. They say the first one's the hardest to get. You've
Yeah.
ticked that off. It's doing well. It's just a matter of when you're ready to go for the next one.
Yeah. Definitely.
Sweet. So I guess as we wrap it up, Kacy, what top five, top three, top one, whatever you can rattle off, what sort of advice would you give to anyone else in a similar situation that's thinking about getting started but not sure on their direction?
Um, Look, I've probably said it a couple times already, but like I personally, I put it off for a long time. And if I did put it off another 8 months, you can see the difference, see what I could have missed out on. So my biggest advice would just get into it, talk to someone, you can trust, someone who can help you, and just get into it. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, really appreciate you taking the time to jump on the podcast. If anyone wants to reach out to Kacy directly, look him up on the DRN, give him a buzz. I'm sure he'll happily share his story in more detail with you. If it's inspired you to take action, just jump on discoverbuyersagency.com.au, reach out or just look up our details, Instagram. I'm sure you'll find us and happy to help wherever we can. Thanks for coming on, Kacy.
Thanks, Kane. Appreciate it.
Cheers, mate.